Joining us now, a very special guest, the Vice-Chairperson of the Niti Aayog, Suman Bery. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. It's a fascinating budget in many senses. I found the focus on women and women-led development to be quite pronounced. How are women much more than just a political demographic? They are also an essential part of our demographic dividend. When we talk about growth in the country and true growth, how are they real enablers, and how does this budget seek to enable them?
Vishnu, good to be on your program. Look, I think a larger point I'd like to make is that much of what the Prime Minister has achieved in this decade is very soundly based on academic research and fairly recent academic research. I'll come to your question about women in just a minute, but let me say that when in 2014 he announced Swachh Bharat, it was because there was increasing evidence that much of the problems that we were having with children's stunting and wasting was not only because of nutrition, but because of open defecation. Okay, so he was ahead of the curve. Similarly, it is really only in the last 20 years that there is a development consensus that essentially in societies where women are empowered, development takes place. So there is a sound basis for focusing on women. Now, there have been many women-focused initiatives since the Prime Minister took over, but I think it's fair to say that it was in his Viksit Bharat speech that he talked of women-led development, and then he took that message forward to the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration to make this now a global campaign. We have had, of course, the self-help groups, what he calls Lakhpati Didi, for some time now, but I think this has now really grown to a movement, and I think the focus now is to really put our money where our mouth is in terms of female entrepreneurship. I will make one additional point which was not picked up particularly in the budget speech, but is implicit in that, which is that our female labor force participation rate is low because of women still being assigned traditional home care responsibilities, and therefore not, even when they're well trained, able to participate in the economy. Digitization and the spread of broadband could change this dramatically, allowing women to reconcile their home care responsibilities, which are traditional, with, for example, call centers or whatever. Right. So women-led development is a big thing, it's not a fad.
Mr. Bery, the average real income of people in the country has increased by 50%. That's a fairly stupendous statistic. What exactly is this based on? Because that would sort of work parallelly with statistics which indicate that 25 crore people have been elevated from multidimensional poverty in about 10 years. So, incomes rising by 50%, on what basis, or how has the government calculated this?
I'm afraid on that you'll have to ask the Finance Ministry. I'm responsible, or my agency is responsible for the 25 crore figure.
Sure.
And I can certainly go into the details of that.
Go ahead, sir.
But, so the 25 crore figure is based on our National Family Health Survey, but the National Family Health Survey is conducted every 5 years. And so in an exercise that was also done jointly with the UNDP, we the technical term is interpolated on what had been the situation before this government came into power, to try and assess how many people escaped multi-dimensional poverty between the start of this government and 2022, and that is the figure of 250 million or 25 crores that the Prime Minister refers to and was also referred to in the Honourable Finance Minister's speech.
Reskilling is another area where there's been prominent mention. 1.4 crore youth have been trained under the Skill India mission. Is there any statistic or is there any data which links the skilling of these individuals with actual jobs that they may have picked up?
A good question. I would like to put this in the larger framework of the narrative of the budget speech, which is to equip and empower the youth of the country. So skilling reflects two things. It reflects to some extent the fact that India has inherited a burden of educational attainment which is not necessarily well matched to the expectations of employers. This is true, of graduates of engineering schools, the IT sector, etc. That's one dimension of it. The second dimension of it is now what lies ahead. Mm-hmm. And at a meeting of Niti Aayog's governing council, the Prime Minister said to the assembled chief ministers, look, please make sure that you're equipping people for electric vehicles, for example, and not equipping them for internal combustion engines, because those jobs will be being phased out. I would say that the skilling is partly self-selected, and so people will, as it were, give up time for skilling if they believe that it actually advances their employment opportunities.
Right.
But I can't go beyond that, but it's a reasonable question.
One final question. The corpus of 1 lakh crore rupees with a 50-year interest-free loan. That's ambitious, isn't it? That gives people across sectors from defense to, I presume, startups, a real opportunity at innovating. So is that a key focus going forward, building a spirit of innovation and encouraging innovators? Because it's one thing to replicate technologies, but to have genuine Indian science, engineering and businesses, that's something completely different.
Vishnu, I would say that I would draw a distinction between R&D and innovation, which is the application of research and development. My reading of the text is that this could apply to both, and let us acknowledge the fact that everywhere innovation is a risky business and there is a role for the state. Now, my understanding of certainly the US and I think the UK is that there are very generous tax write-offs, expensing as it's called, for investment in research and development. I believe we tried that and found that there was some abuse of the tax code. And so this is an initiative now to try and subsidize it through the financial system. I haven't seen the details of the scheme. There will no doubt need to be checks and balances.
Sure.
But the larger point is that an innovator is taking a risk, and if it pays off for not only the individual but for the society. And so there is a public policy case for subsidy.
Right. Wonderful speaking to you, Mr. Bery. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on a couple of aspects of this budget which really do need to be looked at. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.